It's time for some outrageous predictions. It's already kind of crazy that Ohio State is playing its third top 5 opponent in 7 weeks, while Indiana has not played one ever. It's kind of nuts that they're doing that, but it is what it is, right? I'm Steven, that's Andrew, that's Stefan, and these are our outrageous predictions for Ohio State's matchup against Indiana on Saturday. Andrew, get crazy.
So in our post-game video that we do after the game, I believe Steven will get on camera and say, Happy Emeka Egbuka Day, because I'm going to make him say it if this happens. I think Emeka is going to have a really, really big afternoon. I'm saying 202 scores. I think Emeka is going, like, this is the game where just I think all signs point to a player like him, right? So Ohio State's offensive line, go listen to Buckeye Talk. Go get the text.
It's the best in the country.
We have talked about that ad nauseum. We all know it. We all know that the running game might be, in precarious waters. I think that might be the best way to say it without, being overly negative. So there's some questions about the offensive line and the running game. I think Ohio State, when you look at the receiver room, Jeremiah Smith still walking around with ice on his ankle, heavily tamed ankle. He's going to go. He's going to be fine dealing with that play from the Northwestern game. But I think Indiana is going to look at this matchup and say, we need to take away Jeremiah Smith. We've reached that point. We're beyond the point of, well, he's just a freshman. We'll see. No, teams have to game plan Jeremiah Smith as Ohio State's #1 receiver. I think Ohio State is going to be able to lean on Emeka Egbuka. I know Carnell Tate had a big week last week. Being in Chicago, that was a great moment for him, but I think this is exactly the type of game where you can get creative with Emeka Egbuka. You can move him around, and if Indiana is going to make it their mission to take away Jeremiah Smith, somebody's open. And somebody's in one-on-one coverage, and I think it's going to be Emeka Egbuka. I think he's going to be all over the field against Indiana. I think we are setting up for a very, very big day for him. I think when you talk about the run game, the receiving mix, all signs to me point to Emeka Egbuka right now. So 200 yards, 2 touchdowns. Happy Emeka Egbuka Day.
Emeka Egbuka had 12 touches against Oregon. He's had 12 touches in every game since then. And it's not because he's doing anything wrong. It's not because defenses are taking him away. It's because they've been blowing teams out. That's just kind of what it's been. And so this is kind of where Emeka Egbuka, you can insert him back into the offense. It also gave you an opportunity to get Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith and G. Scott and some other receiving options more involved, because that's more Indiana has to deal with. There is a chance that he's not their best receiver. Jeremiah Smith's their best receiver. But one of their most valuable pieces gets more involved now that there's an uptick in games coming on here. Stefan, get crazy.
I said last week Tyler Williams was going to get an interception, or maybe I said that 2 weeks ago. That didn't happen.
You going to double down?
I'm not going to double down exactly on that, but I think he's going to get a career-high 3 tackles for loss in this game. We've seen him get 2 multiple times in his career. I think he's going to get up to 3 this week. The interior of Indiana's offensive line is a bit shaky to me. We talked about Indiana's passing attack. The RPO game is big for them, and they do not necessarily establish a run, but they have a lot of success, balancing their passing game with their running game. And as long as their running backs are healthy, I think that's something that they're going to try to do early on. And I think it's going to give Ty League a chance to really kind of, make them uncomfortable. Blow the play up the middle, get 3 tackles for loss. They're not all going to happen in the first quarter, but, over the course of the game, I think he's going to collect 3. And even when it's not tackles for loss, his presence there in the middle, I think is going to make it very tough for Indiana to run the ball. So I think he's going to get that career mark, 3 tackles for loss, Ty League Williams against Indiana.
Are any of them tied to a sack?
Sure.
Just sure.
Put a number on it.
1 sack, 3 tackles for loss.
I should have made you put 2 numbers on it, but fine. I'll let you live with it. Fine. That's a good point, though. I think Tyleik Williams, we're talking about Ohio State's interior offensive line and whether it can hold up. Indiana's offensive line, just whole, right as it is right now, is probably at the same level as Ohio State's offensive line with this version of it. So we should probably be having that conversation there, too. I've got stats. Do you know do you know the Muffin Man?
I do know the Muffin Man.
Where's he live?
Drury Lane.
Hey, do you know what's the most rushing yards a team has run on Indiana this year? That's not an answer.
97.
That's wrong as well. It is 137, and it's Charlotte. After that, it's Washington with 116, and then it's Maryland with 112. Those are the only 3 games this year Indiana has allowed more than 100 rushing yards by one team. Here's where I'm going to go with this. Ohio State is going to run for 250 yards, and 4 different guys are going to have a rushing touchdown. That's why I let Andrew go first. Emeka Ibuka is going to be amongst them. I think he's going to get involved in the run game. We've already seen little bits and pieces of it. I think we see him get into the end zone. I think we see Travion Henderson get into an end zone. I think we see Quinshawn Judkins get into the end zone. And I think we see Will Howard also get into the end zone. That's what's making it outrageous is I'm putting names on it. But 250 yards, which would be significantly more than any other team has run on Indiana this year, because it also hammers home just how much of a gap it is between them and the 11 other teams on their schedule. We are this much better than you. This much better than the other 11 teams. This is how much of a gap. And it also boils home the point of, sure, are you having some concerns about Ohio State's offensive line 3.0? Sure you are. But also, how do you mitigate that? You run the freaking ball.
This could be I like that pick because this could be very game script dependent. Indiana has been ahead on a lot of the teams that they have played this year, and if Ohio State, I mean, they're 2 touchdown favorites, you know. So I'm not gonna do the bit right now of what if they just do they do to Indiana what they did to Michigan State a few years ago. Like maybe, but they're 2 touchdown favorites right now. So if they are ahead for the majority of the game, I like that. I think that could play into this as well because, you know, when you talk about the way that Indiana has had to win this year, they have been playing from ahead. I'm curious what happens if they have to play from behind and how Ohio State handles that.
But also simply, this is one of the best run offenses in the country. And against Michigan State, it was through the air.
Yes.
It can be the same result just by land this time. And when you've got guys where you're trying to get them comfortable out there, what do? You run the ball. What did they do against Penn State to put that game away? They ran the ball. You didn't have to worry about Carson Hinsman and Donovan Jackson. Could they hold up a pass pro? No. We're just going to push you 5 yards down the field, a run at a time. Ohio State should be able to out-physical Indiana just where Indiana's program is right now. And that's all due respect to what Indiana has done this year. But again, there is a table where the big boys sit. And this is a chance for Ohio State to show Indiana that it doesn't quite sit at that table yet. We'll continue to have this conversation on Buckeye Talk. And get the text 614-350-3315. Ohio State, Indiana. Top 5 matchup number 5. For one team, if they win it, they go to the Big Ten championship game. For the other team, if they win it, they're one step closer to getting back to the Big Ten championship for the first time since 2020. See you there.